Hello, everyone, once again, and it's a pleasure to meet you all. Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar. What we are going to do is, firstly, I'll give a small introduction of myself. My name is Sarita, and alongside me is Mr. Farid. We will be hosting this session for you guys, and we have an exciting agenda lined up to give you guys a comprehensive overview of what you can expect at the upcoming AgriNext Awards and Conference in Dubai on 13th and 14th of November, right? In today's webinar, we would be covering the topic insights and strategies for startup success. Let me just quickly introduce our esteemed panelist to everyone. First of all, we have Mr. Dirk. He's the co-founder and CEO of Bar.on, and he's a visionary entrepreneur driving innovation in beer production through sustainable and on-site brewing technology. His leadership transforms global beverage distribution, emphasizing local sourcing and customized flavors for more sustainable futures. Right now, we have Dr. Hansa. She's a co-founder of AgriGuru Online. Dr. Hansa is a leading AI and machine learning expert who spearheaded AgriGuru Online, transforming global agriculture commodities trading with innovative automation strategies across platforms from pre-trade to post-trade activities, optimizing accessibility and reducing the operational costs. Now we have Mr. Brian. He's a visionary CEO of Africa Agriculture Network, which is AAN, pioneering digital transformation in African agriculture through impactful video content and strategic support to startups and farmers. His leadership bridges information gaps and fosters sustainable growth across the continental agriculture sector. So welcome you guys, and thank you so much for joining once again. Now that I have introduced all our esteemed panelists, let's dive into the main agenda, covering the topic of insights and strategic for startup success, right? So just a quick update before we start with this. This is an interactive session which aims to explore your insight into startup culture, your journeys, the challenges that you faced. We'll discuss crucial aspects of aspiring entrepreneurs aiming to aspire and guide others in the startup ecosystem. Clips from the session will be shared on our YouTube channel, also on our social media platform, focusing on personal journeys and offering journal advice to the viewers who are planning for their startup journeys, right? Each panelist will answer 3 to 4 personalized questions before we move on to the broader topics that will benefit our audience entrepreneurial journey, right? So shall we begin with this?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I would like to start with Mr. Dirk. And my first question to you is, can you please elaborate about your company and what is the core mission of your startup? With that, also let us know what and who or how were you inspired to start this company?
Okay. Let me start by answering your last question, right? Like, how did it all start? It was a couple of years ago when I read a book written by Professor Kevin Verstrepen and his colleagues, who investigated the molecular structure of about 250 Belgian beers. In the book, they were grouping all the beer styles according to that molecular structure. And when I was browsing through the book, I thought, like, okay, if you know all this on a molecular level about aroma and taste of beer, wouldn't it be possible to re-engineer a beer with those ingredients, right? So skipping the fermentation process altogether. And with that idea, I went to the professor, we discussed it, and it was decided to do a feasibility test and see if indeed we could really construct a beer just by mixing components together, between parentheses. And the first results were extremely promising, and that led literally to the incorporation of Bar.on, which now is labeled as the first digital beverage enterprise, aiming to digitize drinks through the use of these specialized beer printers, as we call them. So what happens is we mix beer on site, so in a bar, in a restaurant, on an event, it doesn't really matter. by grabbing a number of ingredients from a discrete set of cartridges, a bit like an inkjet printer, right? But we're not using ink, we're using flavors. And we mix that with water and or also ethanol, alcohol, to create beer literally on a molecular level. So it's made instantly, it's always fresh, and more importantly, it basically skips the need for transportation, right? So if you look at the billions of liters of beer that are shipped across the globe annually, it's insane, right? And knowing that only a small percentage of this has to do with the flavors, right? And everything else is just water. And it's shipped to countries where water mainly is coming from the tap. Our solution literally is a lot more sustainable, as well as a lot less expensive, because you're saving these huge shipping costs. So as a company, Bar.on, we now aim to let's say reconstruct these beers on a molecular level, focusing a lot on non-alcoholic beers, to be honest, and even also expanding the product portfolio towards other types of drinks. We're doing some preliminary tests also with kombuchas, for example. We've really made damn good iced teas, just to give an example. And I think in a couple of years from now, we will be able to showcase a really big portfolio of different types of drinks, fermentation analogs, let's say, that represent, of course, a very good alternative to what is already out there today. Also, what differentiates our drinks from the typical flavored waters, if I may say so, is that Bar.on's drinks have a lot more complexity. So the mouthfeel is there. Yeah, when you spin the liquid in the glass, you have the foam. So it's a different kind of drink. It's a beer-like drink or a malt-like drink that you can also, of course, expand in different beverage areas. I hope that clarifies a little bit what Bar.on does at the moment.
Yeah, thank you so much for answering this question. Just a quick question after this, and then we can ask you questions afterwards. So my next question would be, what are the future goals that you're aiming to achieve? Any specific ideas, or you've just let us know that you're building all these things. Any future expectations, any future goals specifically right now that you have in your mind?
So yes, we've built those first prototype machines, right? They're fully operational. They have been demonstrated at many different events, also for a professional audience. And based on the success of our next fundraising campaign, we will continue with developing new prototype machines for, let's say, more practical use in a very specific market segment. Today, that would be the health and wellness market that we would focus on first. So sports centers, even spas, while of course staying open for the beer industry, so the bars and restaurants and events, etc. But we're broadening a little bit the scope of the market segment that we want to target, and we want to build machines that are, let's say, an exact fit for the demands of such a market. And so it's going to be a machine that has even a lot more complexity than our previous machines, and that will pour the drinks in very fast, comparable to the speed that you would expect from a bar. So that's, like, say, the very next thing that is on our roadmap. Starting from this summer, we would like to engage in that trajectory.
Thank you, Mr. Dirk, for answering the question. Actually, I'd like to ask for the apologies, as Sarita is having some connection issues. So she'll be back in 2 minutes. So I'll be taking it from here, right? So yes, my second question, I would like to ask Dr. Hansa the same questions. Like, the first question is, can you elaborate about your company and what is the core mission of your company? And also, what inspired you to start this company?
See, same like Ms. Dirk, I want to start with the last one, the inspirations to start this business. So I was basically in the academic field. I'm a doctorate in electronics and communications, but This business we are running from last 20 years also, that agri-commodity trading business. So I thought that whenever we do any contract, we have to do lots of conversation through the WhatsApp and through the Gmail, and the client, like buyer and seller, are in the different countries. So that time difference are there, and when we want to convey them the good prices, there is a communication gap. So the deal has to go to the so many conversations. And when any contract done, at the time there are so many emails for the documentation process. So when someone asks, you need a FITO certificate or invoice, you need to go through the sequence of thread of that email. Around 50 to 60 email are there for each particular contract, and literally the people are juggling to find the solutions, that how to manage this documentation. So that is the one point in my mind first come, that I want to solve this problem for my company first, not for the big vision at that time. And then once I jump into this field, I found that, oh, there are so many things that is not updated till now in the agri-commodity business. Like in the world, people are talking about AI and machine learning, but the agri-commodity trading is far behind the digital technologies, because it's rooted inside that people are working still on the paper. They are doing the communication through the WhatsApp only. They are waiting for the price. So when you want a price for one particular global commodity, you need to communicate with so many persons. And at that time also, like you got a price of FOP from one particular region, that is a different, same country, or 5 to 10 different prices with the margin of around 20 to 30, right? And you know that this business have a very less margin. So that particular price, you need it. And for that, you need to do the lots of communication. So I want to design kind of platform where the people just come and do the login, and they can have a different country origin price. So if you want to purchase something from the India, you have the country origin products of India, and you can have a price of that. If you want from the Thailand, if you want from the another country, you have that country origin price. So want to update that price and want to make the streamline of this entire process, like from buying and selling, the whole entire process should be in the automated form. So main mission is that we want to give a price update to all the global commodity persons for one particular place only. And our mission is that whenever the people are talking about agri commodity trading, the AgriGuru online comes first in their mind, because it can provide the solution for each thing, like not only for the price. If they want to ship, then they need to check the freight. So for that, another conversion. So they go to the freight forwarder or other company, they provide the freight. Then they want to see where the shipment are, so the another process. So I want that they can have a price, they can do the inquiry and offer, they can check the freight of that particular port to the destination port. They can also track that where the shippings are lined are there. Inspection agency should be there, insurance person should be there. So all the things whichever required for agri commodity trading should be at the one platform, and want to provide the solution for each one. So that is our main mission to do that. Hope you have justified your thing. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Hansa, for answering the question. I guess you have answered my second question. You have given the answer to my second question also. It was also the what are your future goals, and you have made it clear in that. Yes. So yes. So now moving on to Mr. Mark. So the questions will be the same. So I guess he's having some connection problems.
No, I can hear you clearly.
Okay. So yes, Mr. Mark. So the same question goes for you. Can you please elaborate about your company, and what is the core mission of your company, and what inspired you to start this company?
Well, thank you so much. My name is Mark Semakula. So I have 10 years in marketing experience, digital marketing, business, entrepreneurship. So 4 years ago, it dawned on us that we're in a continent that is really blessed by God to have a lot of arable land. Yeah, Uganda alone, where I'm from, constitutes over 50% of the arable land that's in the East African region. But when you talk to a typical Ugandan, chances are, when you ask them if they're into agriculture, they'll say no. They're chasing white-collar jobs and all these things that have been made to look like the savior for Africa. But personally, as a Pan-African, I believe that the solution to making a difference in Africa lies in our soil. So, having had that background of content creation, digital marketing, basically communication and reaching thousands of people, myself and a couple of co-founders created the Africa Agriculture Network as a vehicle through which we can tell successful stories. Because what we realized is many people had actually undertaken agriculture, but because they were operating in silos, they really ended up just failing and losing a lot of money, and then they became the campaigners for agriculture. So one of our first properties that we did was a property called 𝐻𝐿𝐿𝐿 𝐻𝐿𝐿𝐿, which basically translates into agriculture doesn't lie, where we now highlighted successful stories of people that actually tried agriculture and they had won at it. And this actually gave people a place that they could actually believe again and have a go at it. And even the people we highlighted ended up getting visitors from other countries, sponsors locally and internationally. So it seemed like a breath of fresh air and a story that had to be told. And we decided to just cascade it across. We have programs for children that will encourage children to get into agriculture because you have to catch them when they are young. We have programs to highlight mechanization, to take it to the next level, because most people still have that subsistence thought on agriculture. And back in the day in Africa, how knowledge used to be transferred, it used to be transferred over the fireplace. Yeah, the elders would just sit everyone around the fireplace and just communicate. So it was very visual and audible, right? So we believe that using content to just state the case for agriculture, specifically in Africa, would really move the needle and would also help us just not be so confined within the boundaries of our countries. But someone in Nigeria, someone in Morocco could hear a success story from someone in Kenya, in South Africa, and only the internet can enable us to do that. So pretty much that is why we started this.
So yes, Mark, thank you for answering that question. So yes, my next question would be, what are the future goals that you are aiming to achieve, and how do you wish to achieve them? So what will be the steps that you'll be taking?
So the future goals we need to achieve is to make sure that we have presence in each and every single African country. This is going to heavily rely on partnerships that we're going to create. So that means at any point in time, any story that needs to be told in any of the African countries can easily just reach our platforms. This would remove the need for us to fly to each country, but instead work with local partners. And we believe that these conversations and these stories being told will just start an avalanche of conversations that just empower and just create a change, not necessarily from people that are not plugged into our particular use case and our particular continent, but from each other, you know, that peer review, that peer learning. So that's really the goal. Currently, we are viewed from over 25 African countries, and we want to make that 54, and primarily. So we have a community in each and every single one of these countries. We have partnerships with the governments of these countries from an agriculture perspective, and ultimately just be the thought leader that curates conversation on agriculture and content, and just making sure that everyone is just, the rising tide just lifts all the boats.
Thank you, Mark. It was very visionary, right. Okay, so now we'll be moving forward to our general sets of questions from which our audiences can take advices for their aspirations and future goals of starting a startup. So I'd like you all to put your views on these questions. So yes, my first question would be, how did you initially fund your startup, And what advice would you give to startups seeking early stage funding? So I'll start with Mr. Dirk. So yes, please.
Yeah, so the first round of investment for Bar.on were convertible notes, in total 1.8 million euros. Typically for a CLA, convertible loan agreements, no company valuation is set yet and is determined at a later stage, so in a follow-up round. It has the benefit, right, of not setting that company value, or having to set that company valuation from the very beginning, because then how do you estimate that value? On the other hand, yeah, it also brings along some other discussion points down the road. So I think from my end for Bar.on, I would definitely reconsider the CLAs, and then maybe go for very simple equity investments, based, of course, on the proper conditions. But there's quite a few different vehicles, of course, to raise funds. Today, I would also recognize that, at least for Bar.on, the investment landscape is still less than suboptimal. And I think many founders will agree with that. So the way we're approaching our new fundraising campaign today, as we speak, is literally by launching a crowdfunding campaign. So it's actually a syndicate of micro investors that is going to be looked for. They will invest in return for equity through the syndicate. And in parallel, we will obviously also target follow-on investors such as business angels and family offices first, even before looking at VCs. Perhaps some smaller VCs will take decisions faster than bigger VCs. But in my experience, up until today, I think this is the better way forward. And at the same time, also for Bar.on, it's a nice way to attract what we call, of course, early adopters, right? People who are really interested in your products, even when they're not on the market yet. They could help you also in your decision-making process. They can help you with some market research. So it's not just only about raising some funds, it's also about getting some hands-on information on how to design your product to be the better market fit.
Question remains the same, and I would like to ask this to Dr. Hansa. So how did you initially fund your startup, and what advice would you give to startups seeking early stage fundings?
So Farid, AgriGuru Online is a bootstrap startup. We have not taken any investment from any persons yet, because we don't want at this moment to interact the other person to say something to do on the particular startup work. So we don't want that kind of interactions interrupt in our project, and it gives us freedom to do what exactly we want to solve the problem, because we don't want to scale the business. We want first focus on this initially to solve this big agri-commodity trading business problem. So that's why we started in the form of bootstrap. But yes, the funding is a very good options when you are not having a bootstrap amount. You can raise, because if you are having an idea and if you are not having a fund, you cannot create it, and the problem will remain as a problem, not a solutions. So for the early stage, if you are not having a sufficient fund, it's wise advice to take funding from the other one, so you can at least develop the prototype applications. But yes, once you are having a sufficient one, it should go into the bootstrap, so you can clearly identify what exactly the problem. You can create the solution for that without any others interrupt. So that's my main thing to convey to the other persons.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you. So yeah, same question goes for you, Mr. Mark. So what advice would you give to startups seeking early stage funding?
Well, I'll answer how we are funding direction. I think I'll agree with Dr. Hansa as well. Africa Agriculture Network, we are self-funded as well. run the business enough to get monetized on YouTube. So we're getting some dollars on YouTube there, but still we're just reinvesting everything into the business. In terms of investors, some of these ideas are, it's very difficult for someone to understand the need. It's almost as if the very first person that had to save the world had someone ask them, like, am I getting paid if I save the world? So for now, I would encourage startup owners that you may have an idea that is great, but someone may look at it and say, but I'm not making money from this idea. But someone has to do the idea. A proverb is told that the people that plant the trees are not the ones that sit under the shade. So for now, our idea is actually to commercialize some of our content creation to people that are in agriculture. So basically, imagine I would talk to Dr. Hansa and ask her, do you have a TVC? Do you have a commercial for AgriGuru online? And she says, you know what, I don't have. And I can tell I can make for you one. And all the proceeds that go from that, then they fund this other bigger thing that is doing this huge thing. So,
Mr. Mark, there is some network issue from your end.
I would encourage you, how you frame funding. You may end up realizing it, can make someone give you more. I would say, just to startup owners, make sure you frame what you're doing in a way that makes people understand, make people sign the checks, reach into their wallets, because don't get caught up in the passion. At the end of the day, when you're looking for money, it's the other person who has it that has to buy into what you're doing. And I think structure how you're framing what you're doing until someone actually buys in. But don't sell your soul while at it. That's all I'll say.
Thank you, Brian. So yes, moving on to next question. So this is the question that I would like to ask to Mr. Dirk, and I want your insights, everybody's insights on this, because this is the most general question. So what are some misconceptions about starting and running a business that you have encountered? So this question is directed to Mr. Dirk.
Misconceptions.
Yes.
I think most people are well aware that building a new company from the ground up doesn't happen overnight. There's this typical saying, right? It was an overnight success after 10 years of suffering. Well, it's more or less like that, right? And also, as founder and CEO of the company, you're continuously solving problems, continuously. So you need to be aware that it's going to be a struggle. Nothing will be easy. And on many different fronts, you will have battles in front of you that you will need to win. So yeah, that's maybe sometimes underestimated. Also, another misconception perhaps, or underestimation, is that you have to choose your co-founders very carefully. Know who you get in bed with, preferably with people that you have known for a long time, and also make sure to listen to outside advice. It's not because you're good friends that, let's say in your private life, that you will remain good friends also in your professional life. So those are some of the pitfalls. Some things that I also often have encountered is that even when you have a great idea, even when you have great technical skills as a team, or scientific skills as a team, what is quite often also missing is a very, very mature financial profile, right? Because in the end, your idea can be fantastic, but the sooner, the better. The company should become, of course, also self-sustainable. So that means you need to think about revenue from the very beginning. Otherwise, you will remain fully an R&D company with all the risks that come with it, being dependent or fully dependent from investors as the most important risk. So yeah, those are a little bit, let's say, my my warnings. If you want to set up a new company, just be careful and don't expect that things will just happen overnight.
Thank you. I think this question can be rephrased as what is the one thing that new startups are doing wrong, causing them to fail? I think this is something that is need to be discussed.
That's a typical answer, right? So overpromise and underdeliver.
Yes.
No. So I mean, Bar.on is not my first startup. I've been in another industry as well, where a lot of promises were made by many different startups, knowing very well that, you know, they were exaggerating, or they were, let's say, hoping for those kind of results when most people in the sector knew that they were not realistic. And quite a few have been punished for that. So yeah, that's very dangerous. Just continue with your R&D process until you have something real to deliver, or something real to show. Like Bar.on, right? We've built those first prototype machines from idea until the first prototypes in 10 months. Before that, you would never hear us say anything or promise anything about those machines until, you know, they were there. You know, you can touch it, you can use it, you can taste the beers coming from the machine, and then we can start having a good discussion about whether or not, you know, it's good or bad, or something's missing, what can be improved, and so on. And then you can start thinking about the next step. And yes, of course, there's this vision thing, but yeah, to finance a vision today, I think that's no longer an option. You need to be very practical, one step after the other.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Dirk. So yes, Dr. Hansa, I would like to ask you the same question. So what is the one thing that you find that new startups are doing wrong, causing them to fail very badly? They invest a lot of money, they put efforts within their company or the startup, but eventually they fail. So what is the one thing that you think that it should be taken care of?
See, when you are talking about startup, failure is not an end. So once you fail, you should remember that you can always start again. So that is the one part. And if you are having a very good idea, like a great idea, then it's don't require lots of money. First, if you are having a great idea, obviously you can have a success, right? It's not always necessary that to develop something you require lots of money. You require a clear vision first, what exactly you want, right? And you need to remember that whenever there is a startup, you need to work 24/7. So if you are talking about 9-to-5 job kind of scene and you can make a success over a night, that's a myth. You cannot do that. But yes, if you are having a good idea, but you are not having a clear vision to develop that, then the one idea will not make a company. So to execute that, you need to think about that, because to having an idea to implement and to run the company, that is two different things, right? So it's not necessary the person having a good idea can be a better entrepreneur only, right? So vision should be clear, the path should be clear, and you need to understand that there is a not end. You can always start from this particular point, right? Because success will not earn overnight. You need to do so many hard work, 24 hours. You need to sacrifice so many things, your time, your family time, so many things. Then and then you can be on the top. So without that, if you are thinking that, okay, over a night, one startup have earned 100 crore or 1000 crore, that cannot be happen, right? For that, you need a clear vision for implement that things. So that's the main thing I want to convey.
Thank you, Dr. Hansa. I think everyone should wear their failure as the badges.
Yes.
Like they should be just going and thinking without anything. They should be a visionary and a goal-oriented person if they want to be successful in their future life.
True.
Right. So yes, now directing my third question to Mr. Mark. So can you discuss any successful marketing or customer acquisition tactics that early stage startups can adopt?
Well, thank you for that question, Farid. What I'll say is the big shift that we're seeing online is
Mr. Mark, I guess you have to repeat yourself because
if you'll note, people follow brands. Say, for example, Elon Musk has way more followers. Can you hear me now? Hello? Can you hear me now?
yes,
Yes,
it is
yes.
better.
Yes, I was saying that when it comes to startups, the trends that we're seeing, actually business globally, are founder-led businesses perform way better than brand-led businesses. So most startup entrepreneurs put a lot of effort behind their startup brands, and they print the t-shirts, they make the jumpers, they open the social media pages, and most of the time they hide their personal brands behind their startups. But what we're noticing online is people want to see the leaders behind these brands, even more than the brands themselves. That's why you may find that Elon Musk has way more followers than X, than Tesla, than all these other things. And when you notice that trend, you'll see that I want to learn from the person. I know about their brand, but I want to learn from the person. So I would encourage startup founders to really invest in their personal brands, to do the work, to take the headshots, to get the virtual assistant or the PA, to just have consistent content they're putting out there, to tell the stories, to take people on a journey even as they build what they're building, because social media is a common place where we only share the good things. You know, I've started a new position here, I've gotten this round of funding, but the best personal brands are the most authentic ones. You know, if you've sent out 100 emails and none has come through, you share that on your page. That's not something you may be able to put on your brand's page, but as a founder, you can share that vulnerability, and over time, people will be able to appreciate it. People will be able to see it. There'll be a track record of what you've put out. And the next time you get on a webinar or you get on a platform, you are more believable. And no one will sell your startup better than you, the founder. So invest in that personal brand. Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you so much. So yes, this will be my second last question, and it will be directed to all of you. You can just answer this one by one. So what is the biggest lesson you have learned from starting your own business? So Mr. Dirk, starting with Mr.
Dirk. Keep following your path, no matter what everybody else tells you to. There's a lot of people that you come in touch with that think differently, that dangle some opportunities, including some money in front of you, but that would force you to deviate from your original plan. My advice is to try not to go into that too easily. Try to remain true to what your original vision was and what you still believe as a founder is the pathway to follow, but of course also stay realistic, right? So yeah, that would be a very strong advice. There's always a lot of opportunities coming along your way, but choose wisely on which to take and which not to take.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Dirk. So I guess we can sum up this in just 2 words, like everyone should be virtuous and hardworking or confident if they are going for the startups, right? So yes, same question goes for you, Dr. Hansa. What's the biggest lesson you have learned from starting your own business?
See, when you start something by your own, will always give you happiness, right? And when you are giving your energy to develop that, you feel like, okay, energized every time. You will not feel tired. So follow your passion will give you always a good thing, one part. And you need to focus that whenever you are solving the problem, you need to first see that that is your problem only or entire world is facing. So when you do the startup and say then, okay, first find the problem and then find the solution. But you need to first see that whether that problem is belong to all of other or not. Because if you have not focused properly on that problem, you are maybe wasting your time, right? So see, follow your passions, but meanwhile also see that whether this problem For that, you are finding a unique solution. That problem belongs to all of us or not? Because if it is only your problem, it will not give a one big company for you, right? So if you are solving the problem for the real world, that give a good thing. And if that problem solving part is your passion, then it give a good result and success, definitely.
Definitely. So it means that everyone that is starting a company or a startup should have a holistic approach.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So thank you for that. Yes, Mr. Mark. So same question. What is the biggest lesson you have learned from starting your own business?
John Maxwell says that everything rises and falls on leadership. So every single startup founder, you need to know that you're leading from the front. Your startup, whatever industry it's in, is going to depend on the leadership of the founder. And John Maxwell also talks about in his book, The 21 Laws of Leadership, the law of the lead. Your company is not going to rise above the highest skill of the leader. Like if the leader is a 7, your startup is going to be a 6 at max. It can never be a 10. So you need to invest in yourself as a leader. And there's a difference between being a leader and being a boss. A boss can just issue threats and just command, but a leader raises people. A leader raises people that are able to undertake things even probably more difficult than he could. So you need to invest in your personal growth and make sure that you're actually putting money behind it, which would now lead to the second thing, which is people. People are your greatest asset. You're never going to work in a silo or in a vacuum. So work on that emotional intelligence. Make sure that the people that you are working with to build this vision of yours, they stay. They're able to buy into what you're trying to do. They're able to enjoy what they're trying to do with you. And ultimately, that will make sure that you have people around you. It's said that a leader who has no followers is just someone taking a walk. So just always check on the dipstick and see how your people are. Are they happy? Are they bought into the vision? Have they understood what you guys are trying to do? And beyond that, get a board, get someone above you, have some accountability above you. Being a leader doesn't mean that you're going to have the highest position in the company. As early as you can, get a board, get people that can keep you accountable to your visions and your goals. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Leadership, people, and governance.
Thank you, Mark. It was very insightful, and I guess it was self-explanatory that how a startup can be built. I like the leaders should be there to lead the team. So thank you for that. So yes, coming to end, this will be my last question to all of you, starting with Mr. Dirk. One piece of advice. What's the one piece of advice you'll give our audience?
Depending on who's listening, different advices would apply. I think in general, what is at least leading me throughout my professional decisions is my personal drive for innovation, right? So my advice to the audience would be find your talents, stick true to your talents, and be passionate about whatever you do. If at some point you feel that you're not passionate about what you're doing, then maybe it's time to make a different decision.
Right. I agree to that, basically.
Yeah.
Yes. So same question to Dr. Hansa. One piece of advice you would give to our audience.
The one piece of advice: don't give up. Whenever there is a problem, there is always a solution. When there is a lock, there is always a key. So don't give up. When you are starting something, just creating, build up, and it will be one day your dream become a reality. So that's it.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
So ending with Mr. Brian, Mr. Mark Brian.
Yes. For me, what I'll tell you is money management. Okay. Make sure you are you're keeping on top of the numbers. There's a saying that goes, the same head at home is the same head that you have in your business. So meaning if at home you have no savings, you don't have a budget, you basically you don't bank, you don't track your records, that's the same head that you're going to bring into your startup. And your startup will end up, no budget, no money, no cash reserves, nothing really. And as a leader of a startup, just make sure that you get the financial literacy that you need, because everything's going to boil down to the money. So you need to make sure that as a leader, you can really have the good financial habits. So when that money now starts coming in, we don't find you in Vegas, just living it up. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ma'am Brian. Thank you. So that ends for the webinar. I guess I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to all our guests for providing essential and insightful information on the topic. Thank you once again for joining this webinar and taking your time out for this webinar. We look forward to seeing you at AgriNext conference in the web. Until then, stay informed and stay engaged. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you for hosting us.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you so
Goodbye,
much,
everyone.
guys. Have a good
Bye.
day.